unpacking today's headlines. This is Souls and Liberty in Depth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Depth, a production of Souls and Liberty brought to you in partnership with MyPillow.com. January 20th, 2025, Liberation Day for the United States of America. We are back, and what a new beginning. Here to discuss all of this with us today is Souls and Liberty's own Gary Michael Voris. I'm your host for today, Stephen Wynn, coming to you from Kansas City. Gary Michael, welcome.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Liberation Day, absolutely. And by the way, just so the audience knows, we're recording this on Monday in the afternoon after the inauguration, but before the College Football National Championship. So the helmet is here as an omen, a predictor, just like we were saying prior to the Trump victory on November 5th. Go Irish tonight.
Good. I'm glad you got the important stuff out of the way there. That's good.
I mean, look, there's American world peace and all of that, and there's a Notre Dame national championship. Come on, keep your priorities straight.
That's right. You got to lead with that. Well, here at the outset, I do want to let our viewers know that we're kind of flipping the script a little bit today. I'm going to be serving as host, interviewing Gary Michael. For the better part of the past year, Souls and Liberty has been working feverishly to help return Donald J. Trump to power. And we thought it would be very fitting to hear more from Gary Michael than usual, because it is he who led that charge. And so we just kind of want to savor the victory, savor what has happened, because it truly is a momentous day in American history. And so, Mr. Voris, I would like to start off just with that. I'd like you to just give us your thoughts, reflect on the implications of this day for our country and our people. It is incredibly momentous.
Yeah, it really, really is. I mean, this is, there are not enough superlatives. There are not enough words in the English vocabulary to capture the significance of this day. I mean, they've all been said. They're starting to sound hackneyed. Greatest political comeback in world history. I mean, on and on and on. It's, but you know what we do here at Souls and Liberty is we talk about the spiritual and the mix with the temporal. And, the temporal world is driven by politics. It's driven by culture and things further up the stream, but all of those things get concretized and then come into reality in the world of politics, particularly here in America. And what happens in America, of course, affects everybody and their, mother and brother all over the world, just because, it's like Roman Empire. What happens in Rome, has long-lasting effects over in Egypt and, the Middle East and everything else. So, it's the pinnacle of power, U.S. presidency, in the essentially American empire, or at least cultural empire, which is the pinnacle of power, imperial power. So to get the top spot in the top place, as you look at all these various things going on around the world too, I mean, the knock-on effect of all of this has been tremendous. And then you look further down and, Trump said it. I mean, he said it himself. He said, the golden era has begun. Golden age has begun. Here we are. America's decline is over. And then he said, God saved me to make America great again. What I was most struck by, this is the same sort of soaring rhetoric delivered, by the way, in a very kind of, as you and I were talking earlier, Stephen, it was very just kind of almost pedestrian. There was no screaming and ranting and raving and pounding and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. That came in the second address to followers. And yesterday at the Capitol Center, Sunday at the Capitol Center. But this was just very, very measured, very even keeled. And all I could think about while he was speaking, because they kept showing that nice wide shot right over there on your screen right is, Kamala and Biden and Clinton's and obviously behind them. And I'm like, this must be something of what the end of the world would be like. God sends out his angels and they gather all the nations in front of him and he separates them, the sheep from the goats. And then he says, depart from me, accursed, to the goats. And I was just thinking, I'm the absolute height of humiliation that it deserve it. I have no sympathy. These people kill children by the millions. I've no, destroy cultures, the whole bit. Could care less about what their feelings are. I hope they use their feelings to repent. I just wouldn't bet on it. But he nuked them. It was carpet bombing. He just stood them up and mowed them down, like one right after another. And you kind of think going into these, well, you're going to try to give the impression of taking the high road and, and blah, 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 and all. No. In a very, the movie, Sum of All Fears, he started it. And I don't, he will bring his enemies to ruin. And he has started that. I mean, that was a incredible address to my mind. And I've watched at least bits and pieces, if not full hundreds of Trump speeches and campaign rallies and this, that, and everything else. I've never heard him deliver that. He is at the apex of his political power right now. And hopefully he stays there for 4 years. Doesn't mean it's just like today and gone. But about an hour before, in sort of the flurry of all the news about Biden issuing pardons and, all that business, something kind of sneaked in that didn't get an awful lot of attention. I can see why from the mainstream media. It's a CBS News poll. I think Ipsos did it for them, but I'm not sure. It doesn't matter who. CBS released the poll they'd paid for. And it said that 60% of Americans are optimistic about the future of America under Trump. That is by far and away the highest number that we have ever seen. And when they broke it down and went through each of the individual age group, all the demographics, age, color, race, ethnicity, whatever, everything, he had a majority in every single demographic. You'd have to have a majority practically in every single demographic to have 60% of the country. And when I looked at it, I went, 60-40. That's interesting, because that was the exact breakdown of the Catholic vote for Trump on November 5th, 60-40. Remember that mix, right. 60-40. Right. Could very well be the case here that, as Catholic J.D. Vance was standing there taking his oath, and a Catholic was supplanting the communist Kamala in the office of vice president, 60% of the country is optimistic about Trump, as were 60% of Catholic voters. I think that's massively newsworthy. Although, again, it got missed because, or didn't get an awful lot of attention, I should say, because of the pardons and the inauguration and blah, 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 and all that. But, blessed be God is all I can say.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. I have never seen anything like it. First of all, his tone, he would typically, obviously, Trump is very bombastic and just full of personality, and his delivery was sober, serene. Even
that's why Kamala didn't like it, because it was sober. She didn't like it at all. You can see she looked really mad.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it just reminded me of. It was. I thought as I was watching, I thought, boy, I'm glad I'm on his side, because it was almost scary. Normally, because he is so out there, so bombastic, for him to be, it's almost like your father. It's one thing for him to yell at you, but when he starts chastening you in a very calm, quiet, way, you think, oh boy, he's really mad. He's really gonna get me. The shaming, the public shaming that he did, half an hour of just excoriating Biden, Kamala, and their whole cabal as they sat just feet away from him. It was glorious. It was, I've never seen anything like it. It was just fantastic.
Glorious. Glorious is a great word. I'm telling you, if you're on the correct side on the last day, that's probably what it's going to look like.
Right. Oh, exactly. And he was right to do so. They have spent the past 4 years
10
in power, destroying this country, destroying lives. It's just what they have done is treasonous, criminal, wicked. And so for them to be, for their machinations and their failures to be paraded in front of them, in front of the country, the whole world, was just fantastic. At the same time, I also loved just what he basically committed to doing for the country. His address was again glorious for the vision it painted, the ambition it demonstrated, and the strength that it projected. Among his many standout themes, there are all kinds of them. As you said, America's decline is over. The golden age of America begins now. Sovereignty will be reclaimed. Safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. And he said, we will not forget our country. We will not forget our Constitution. And we will not forget our God. And I was so glad that he added that, because it's important to remind Americans, we're going to be working for the purging of the country, the reclaiming of the country, but none of that will be possible if we forget God, if we do not include him as part of this process. We can't expect to make America great again. He is key to that. So following
up on that, if I can interrupt you for a second, Stephen, I think one of the things that's really important to bear in mind there is, imagine the squirming that was happening, certainly inside the rotunda, but then with various U.S. officials, deep state, uniparty officials, particularly in the intelligence and security areas, as they're all handing in their resignations, as faster than the U.S. government prints money. Imagine the squirming going on when he said, "God saved my life."
Yes.
To make America great again, so I could make America great, however he phrased it. It is a safe bet that there are people in that rotunda or just on the outskirts of it who were part of that assassination attempt. This moment was the moment they tried to prevent right here. And, here we are, what is it, about 7 months later? Is that right? I got my math right? 7 months later. And we still know next to nothing about any of the failures in Butler. Christopher Wray, it's an ongoing investigation, we can't tell you. And then that one Lowe, I think his name was stepped in for the woman who had to resign. We can't tell anything, it's still an ongoing investigation. Why the hell can't you? I mean, if you're going to insist this is just Thomas Crooks, well then, who are you going to offend? But, 7 months? Really? 7 months. Think about all the various murders and everything else we knew. I mean, the guy that set the woman on fire on the subway, they had him incarcerated, done, and had everything to say about him in 24 hours, less than. And here we are months later with the entire exploratory power of the federal government and investigative arms and, courts and warrants and subpoenas and everything else. And 7 months later, we don't know anything. And then they go and, burn his body, cremate him within like 12 hours, I think it was, afterwards. So there's no way that was just Thomas Crooks on his own. And that relates back to today, obviously, to go back to my original point, is that they wanted to kill him. And it was people in that circle right there who wanted him dead to prevent this moment today. So, he said in his Capital One Arena crowd rally on Sunday, I'm going to release the JFK files, the RFK files, the MLK files, the COVID, all of it. These people should be throwing themselves off the edge of the country at this point, off rooftops and everything else, because, it's coming for them. And when we get a chance, ask me some thoughts about the pardons. But this is all about justice. One of the highest spiritual qualities, one of the 4 cardinal virtues, and this is all about justice. Bring it, baby.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think that's a good point to take a quick break. We'll take a quick break, move away, and then come back and dive right into what you're discussing there. I want to look at it's just the slew of executive orders that he is going to be signing, and just discuss the unimaginable impact that those are going to have on American society. Over 200 reportedly that are going to be signed here very shortly. And then, let's discuss the pardons, the corruption, lots to talk about anyway. We'll dive into those topics very soon. Stay tuned.
Just like all of you, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. I'd flip-flop all night, use my arm for support, and fall asleep, or I'd wake up with a sore neck or maybe a headache. Well, quality sleep comes from keeping your neck straight at night. You have to fill in that space between your head and your bed. That's why I invented My Pillow. My Pillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it doesn't matter if you sleep on your back, stomach, side, or any combination of all three.
When I got My Pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get Classic King My Pillows for only $19.98. Queen size just $18.98. Standard Classic My Pillows only $14.98. That's right, only $14.98. Plus all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Gary Michael, let's dive right into the issue of pardons.
Yeah.
Biden has, for the past 4 years, he's been acting as just this venomous serpent, dripping his toxins all over the Constitution, all over the flag, all over the country. And true to form, he spent the last few minutes of his presidency issuing pardons to people who didn't deserve them. I'll just put it that way.
Sure.
Give us your thoughts on all this.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting. He dropped the Biden crime family pardons. That got sneaked out, to the press like 3 minutes before. I mean, it was dated, timed obviously in the morning hours. So he was still president. So it's legit that way. But to Liz Cheney and the J6 and the Michael Byrd who shot and killed Ashley Babbitt and. I mean, just all of them. I mean, the whole, Fauci, the whole
Anthony Fauci as well.
Yeah.
I was so ticked off to see that he pardoned Anthony Fauci. It just makes my blood boil.
So here's the discussion in common sense kingdom. How can you be pardoned for something that you have not done or been convicted of or confessed to or whatever? However you want to go with that reason, there's the common sense thing. But there is, unfortunately, those of us who are old enough to remember, we had these same questions, back in 1974 when Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon preemptively. So was that, look, it's the same principle. He hadn't been convicted of anything. They were, the House had gone to him and said, hey, we're going to impeach you and you probably aren't going to survive the Senate. But whatever, telling somebody in advance, hey, we're going to charge you doesn't mean that you've been charged and found guilty and all of that and can be pardoned. So there's a precedent, the only one there is, already on the books that, yes, you can be pardoned preemptively. Okay. That kind of came up, that discussion kind of came up around, Hunter and him being pardoned. And everybody sort of did it's his son, screw it. I really want to go to war over this. But this that happened this morning in like two different phases, all his non-family people, big names, all of them, Cheney, Kinzinger, Benny Johnson, all of them, Fauci, right down the line. And then phase two or part two, his family, as he's getting ready to be introduced into the rotunda, the Biden crime family, his brother, everybody else. Now, unlike Nixon, because, you weren't alive, at least not in a conscious state, during the whole Watergate thing. I was. You got sick to death afterwards. You got burned out every single day. Here's the Watergate hearings. Oh, that's where Hillary Clinton cut her teeth on, how to be a witch. So by the time he was ready to resign and then announced his resignation, everybody was like, oh, thank God this is over. And I think Ford, legitimately or not, this is going to be a question for the Supreme Court to decide. Can you pardon somebody from something they have not been accused or convicted or put on trial or charged with or anything else? I don't know the answer to that. However, and there's a few ways to skin a cat here, a presidential pardon is only for federal crimes, etc. So any of the 25, 26, 27 Republican state attorneys general around the country can bring charges, figure out a way to, hey, what Liz Cheney did, that was like trying to nullify my vote in advance, whatever. There's all kinds of, this will go on in the legal, because it needs to be settled. That's the thing. It's not just some, hey, let's go on a revenge tour. This question needs to be settled. It needs to be settled because really, can a president pardon anybody for anything before, during, and after. So what's to stop Trump from ordering, I don't know, whoever to go around and assassinate all these people, on federal property? So it's a federal crime. And then just as he's getting ready to leave office, pardon them all. I mean, there has to be some sort of common sense. What's the spirit of this law understanding applied here? And everybody is asking. I mean, my ex accounts, well, you can't pardon somebody for something that they haven't been accused of yet. And that's a legitimate thing. And again, it's a Supreme Court, I think, ultimate answer, because the second anybody is going to go after any of these people, or just go straight to Pam Bondi's the U.S. Attorney General, where she just files an emergency petition to the Supreme Court and says, hey, can you do this? Can they do this? But here's something else that I think is a kind of backdoor way in to get at this. With regard to specifically the J6 committee, what is it that they would be charged with? Well, destruction of evidence. Okay. But the pardons, as are laid out in the Constitution, can only be granted when a person is charged with a crime against the United States. I don't think destroying evidence in a congressional hearing is a crime, qualifies as a crime against the United States. So one way or the other, whether they're legit, whether the pardons are legit or whether they're not, I don't think they apply in the case of somebody just destroying evidence. Is it a crime against the United States of America to shred a bunch of documents and delete a bunch of files from your own congressional hearings? I don't think that qualifies as a crime against the United States. So there is the question, are they legit? Can you, pardon somebody before they've done something or been accused of doing something or been found guilty of doing something? Okay, that's a question. But I want to introduce this other question. The pardons, whether they're good or not, are only good for federal crimes against the United States. That's what makes them fall under federal jurisdiction. This doesn't strike me as that when you dig down into it. That language is extraordinarily clear. It must be crimes against the United States. So is taking bribery money from foreign governments a crime against the United States? Biden crime family? In the case of Hunter with the gun charge and that sort of thing, okay, there he is. He has, he was sentenced, the whole thing was going to happen. And then he pardoned him, but he'd already been charged and, tried and all that stuff and everything. So it's a different, Hunter's case is a different case. These, what if Pam Bondi were to just bring a charge of tampering with evidence or, obstruction of justice in a congressional hearing against Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and Benny Johnson and Jamie Raskin? Adam Schiff is... I don't know. The other thing here is, do any of these things rise to the level of treason? If you are, right. Because treason is not covered. You can't, with a case of treason, pardon somebody for that. It explicitly says so. So it's not a blanket pardon for anything you might ever have done any time in your life or might do in the next 6,000 years. It doesn't work like that. So lying to the American public, making up a phone call transcript, which is what he did, Adam Schiff, when he was in Congress, and now he's in the Senate, hopefully not for very long. I don't know. I think there's an awful lot of legal questions here. I really do. I don't think this is cut and dry as Biden and his little cabal, Obama's third term people think it is. I don't think so. Again, I'm not an attorney. I've sort of played one on TV every now and then, kind of doing it now. But I guess something of a legal mind, and I don't think these things pass muster. I really don't. There's
Right.
certainly enough of a discussion to be able to have. So wouldn't that be great? You're going to get sick of winning. Headline, United States Supreme Court overturns pardons.
Yeah.
Oops.
Right. Yeah.
Then you
Yeah,
will see them
exactly.
throwing themselves off buildings.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And if there's anyone who can push that through, it would be Trump. It was interesting. He signed a couple of executive orders after the luncheon, I believe, that it's just some more minor orders, essentially. And at the end of that ceremony, he was asked by a reporter about Biden's pardons. And he held his cards close to his chest, rightly
Yeah.
so. He said, well, it was unfortunate that he did that. And that's all I'm going to say, about this at that point, or
Right.
at this point, basically. So it really suggested this issue is not dead. And it would not surprise me one bit if he and his team start looking at every possible avenue forward, including those that you suggested here.
Yeah, and for people at home, we got to remember that, while Trump is president, his cabinet is not in place yet. Looks like they're going to be. Everything we hear, Hegseth's got the votes, Bondi's got the votes, but the vote hasn't been taken, and so they're not officially there yet. That said, as you look around this sort of world, it's not like it was like, oh my gosh, he really wrote pardons for his family? I mean, these have been being talked about since, the day after the election. So were they being given serious, studious, examination with wearing 5 glasses and in the back room somewhere? Probably not massively high on a priority, because in that case, they were still hypothetical. But, as the time went on, they became more and more, they ventured into reality, shall we say, a realistic chance that they were going to happen. So there's probably been already some hashing out what's the best way to kind of approach this if it happens, and what would a filing look like, and who would be the court to file it with. And remember that, Joe Biden has, between Obama's appointees in the end of his second term, and then Trump, and then Biden in these 4 years, in the last 12 years, 8 of those years have been essentially ruled by Democrats, and they've had the majority in the Senate. So a lot of the, shall we just say, commie judges, anti-American judges, about half of the bench, federal bench, is now that. What's the case on the Supreme Court is a kind of one-off, something of an anomaly. You got 6-3 roughly. That's not the case in the overall federal judiciary. It's more like 5-5. So the good news is that it would be the administration that would be filing the cases. So where would they be filing the cases? What courts, aka what judges? Biden judge, a Clinton judge, an Obama judge. So it is. I don't know. As you really think about this, I think they're gonna. I mean, in a word, they're pissed. Now, they're not going to let it spoil their inaugural balls today, or, dampen the spirit of anything going on. But, today the sun will set and the sun's going to rise tomorrow, and the balls will be over, and all the, celebrations will have come to an end. Everybody go back to their homes all over the country and all that. And then we get down to business. And I think the business that's going to be gotten down to is not going to go well. And again, even on the federal question, I mean, you can pepper Fauci left and right. I mean, why is it a federal crime? Why would it have to play out in federal court if your, 4-year-old son was given one of the vaccines, which it wasn't, and then you've got all of this stuff of, all of Fauci's comments. Oh, if you take the vaccine, you won't get it. Oh, well, you will get it, but it'll just be a little bit. Well, it might be a little bit, but, it won't kill you. Well, you won't wind up in the hospital. You've got all of this stuff. Why do I have to bring that case in federal court? If I'm a parent, why can't I bring that in my, deep red state of Florida against him? Where does he live? Can I bring it in his home state? There's an awful lot of avenues to go through. And again, the question is still, is what Biden did able to be done? Okay, Supreme Court question, probably ultimately. Meanwhile, there's these other 48 ways to skin a cat. And, if they think, if the likes of Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and Jamie Raskin and Adam Schiff and all these people think they're somehow, in the clear, you may or may not be in the clear in this one narrow little box. But in all these other boxes, maybe you better lawyer up. And no, the government does not pay for your attorneys, just like the government did not pay for Donald Trump's attorneys when you tried to screw him over in 4 different cases, for the last 2 years. So bring it.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. I'm very glad to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah. Hopefully justice will still be served to all those who committed such wrongdoing in all those areas. What I think has also just been incredible, mind-blowing, is Trump's moves starting today to deliver justice to the American people, which has been denied them in category after category after category for the past 4 years. Yeah. And he's doing that through the executive orders. He was not content to just go to the balls after today's ceremonies. He just right out of the gate came charging. And reportedly 200 or so executive orders are starting to churn out, basically, from the White House.
How does he not get carpal tunnel syndrome? Because he have his own stamp.
I thought about that.
Stamp,
exactly.
Stamp. I mean, do you actually have to physically sign them with a quill or a pen? Or if you're just standing there and go, this counts as my signature, and stamp it, does that count? Because that'd make everything get moving along much faster.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. So some of those, the orders that he signed, one regarding basically declaring a national emergency at the borders, another a national energy emergency, yet another an order basically withdrawing the United States from the Paris Climate Accord. Thank God.
Again.
Us. Yeah, exactly. Unshackling us from this self-imposed suicidal mechanism that's nothing more than a international globalist compact to redistribute wealth. It's just so ridiculous. Also, basically reinstating troops, thousands of American troops who were expelled unjustly from the military because they wouldn't get the jab, restoring them basically to the military with back pay. Official proclamation. That's going to be the policy of the U.S. government moving forward, that there are not hundreds of genders. There are only 2, male and female, which is, again, just fantastic. And then
Can I interrupt you for one second, Stephen?
Yeah.
I thought that. So Liz Cheney just tweeted out. This will be good. She just tweeted out, "This is a woman clearly worried. Trump's remarks in the Capitol Visitor Center today." This was the speech he gave after the inauguration, gave the inaugural address. Then he went over to the Capitol Visitor Center and met with a bunch of diehard MAGA folks. And he was a little bit more freewheeling there. And about Liz Cheney, included in that list, she said, "Trump's remarks in the Capitol Visitor Center today were a reminder that neither lies nor the liar who tells them get better with age. The Select Committee evidence is available upon multiple websites, and as a criminal defendant, Donald Trump has had access to all the transcripts for years." That's not true. "Remember Trump's character. He sat in his dining room watching on television as his supporters attacked our Capitol and brutally assaulted law enforcement. For hours, he refused to instruct the mob to leave. The truth will never change." So what's interesting about that is, why is she feeling the need to come out and defend herself? Sweetheart, you have a presidential pardon. Go off to Club Med. Go book a spa day. You're done. You're safe, right? No, she knows she's not safe. Something that there is no evidence of is the discussion she had with that Cassidy woman. Without her lawyer present, without Cassidy's lawyer present. Cassidy's the one who made up that complete BS story that while the riot was going on and they were driving Trump back to the White House in the Beast, the presidential limousine, that he somehow vaulted through the window from the back, through the bars and the window, started choking the driver and insisting, take me back so we can overthrow the election. Blah, blah, blah. That was Cassidy's testimony. Of course, the two dudes, the Secret Service guys in the Beast, said that's complete BS. But that woman who said that was approached or was going back and forth with Liz Cheney on a number of occasions. And at one point, Liz Cheney, this woman is a witness for the government or the hearing committee, the J6 committee. And that puts her in sort of an official role. And as a witness, BS witness, but a witness, or better said, a witness to BS, or, more accurately said, a BS witness to BS. How's that? Cheney's talking with her kind of off the record without her attorney present, is communicating with her back and forth. All of these texts have been released. On top of that, that's a big no-no. You don't discuss an ongoing investigation in a case with a witness when you're on the prosecution side of things with no lawyer present for the witness. And then she convinces her, or helps her, be a better way to say it, Cheney helps Cassidy get a different attorney. So there's this, she's got this one guy as an attorney, then there's like no attorney, then there's this other attorney. So there's 3 different phases of this. At the end of the first phase and in the second phase, she's having conversations with a witness in her own hearing without an attorney present. Tampering with a witness, that's not a crime against the United States of America. Liz is worried, and she should be.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Not breaking as the audience is watching this right now. So again, we record these ahead of time, but nonetheless, pretty important points. There's going to be a lot of stuff being talked about in the next few days. These are the sorts of things, because ultimately, from a spiritual standpoint, it's justice that we want here.
Exactly.
You cannot let this perdure. You cannot. Because what's to stop the next, like Obama, number 4 or number 5 or whatever it is, coming and doing the exact same thing again? You can't just plot to destroy the nation. When it doesn't work, then write pardons to everybody who helped do it and say, okay, better luck next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they crossed a major line with that. Just so many lines with the lawfare campaign. And that can't be allowed to happen moving forward. They've got to reestablish the line and bring these people to justice. Furthering that notion, I listed a number of executive orders, designed to restore justice, to give Americans justice in many, many ways. One more thing that occurred to me was an executive order that basically will ban initiatives like DEI, critical race theory, all that woke garbage from being transmitted through and inside federal institutions, the mechanisms of the government, basically. That is at an end today, as of today. And I think that's so fitting, because today is Martin Luther King Day. And, today when, we remember his dream, basically, that every American would be judged not by the skin of the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Well, that's this executive order is going to be designed to return us to that and propel us toward the final realization of that dream. It's just incredibly exciting, and to think of the changes that are going to be happening in the next couple of days. Deportations begin tomorrow morning in Chicago, America's most corrupt city, despite the protestations of the mayor there, and our troops.
A mayor, by the way, whose polling numbers, Johnson, mayor of Chicago, his polling numbers are down 15, not 15%. And every time, he's in a habit, good for him. I don't know, probably won't continue doing it, I suppose, but he goes around to all these different precincts and neighborhoods and the whole bit, and holds these little like open town halls, like ask the mayor a question kind of stuff. These residents, he's black, and these black residents in the neighborhoods he goes into, I haven't seen him in more white neighborhoods. I don't know if he goes to them or not. Those aren't the videos that I've seen, if he does that. But the only ones I have seen are, and there are black residents who are tearing him wide open. He wants to raise taxes like mad while he's giving more tax money to illegals and stuff. Look, that is a federal crime. If you, as a mayor or any official, matter of fact, any person, try to prevent law enforcement officers from doing their job, you've committed an obstruction of justice, the whole bit. I mean, all these governors with their big mouths and, what's her face, Katie Hobbs in Arizona, and these mayors in Denver and Chicago and the whole rest of them. I think that's why Eric Adams is in New York, who's got his own legal troubles unrelated to this, sort of saw the writing on the wall and said, this ain't going to go well.
Right.
You order something, you allow it, you tell your police department. When the feds move in, you tell your police department, your police chief, the police chiefs better think twice if they get an order from the mayor. What did they just go through and say? Well, if you're given during the Pam Bondi hearings, if your executive gives you an illegal order, will you have the courage to stand up and say no? If the mayor of Chicago or, Phoenix or, Sacramento, wherever it is, Oakland, San Francisco, turns around and orders the police chief to not work with the feds, that's an illegal order.
Yep.
So I think the police chiefs better start thinking, oh, crap, I don't have access to like $700 million to pay off legal fees and the whole bit. And they would say, I'm either going to resign, I'm not going to follow the order, I'm not going to relay the order or something. This is going to go down very deep, very fast, and it'll be very interesting on Tuesday, which is when this show is airing. We're obviously recording it, like we said, on Monday. What will Johnson, mayor of Chicago, what will his police chief, how are they going to respond? When Tom Homan's, feds show up, I mean, why'd they pick Chicago? Do they already have intelligence on Chicago? Yeah, they've probably been looking stuff up for the last 10 weeks. I arrest them, throw him in handcuffs,
absolutely.
And off you
Absolutely.
go. Raid the mayor's office and arrest him.
Absolutely. And bring cameras, because that is exactly what needs to happen. Yeah, I think a lot of these mayors, the people in higher authority have gotten very used to the law not being enforced over the past 4 years. And that's not how you operate a country, and things are changing. You laying out that scenario just yesterday, I believe, Tom Homan, the new border czar, he posted on X basically a warning. He said, there are a lot of public officials across America in U.S. cities, high-ranking, who are vowing to essentially, obstruct justice. A reminder that is a felony, and if they persist in that, it will be glorious watching them be arrested. We will do this. And I read that, and I cheered inside. It was just fantastic. And
it really is the lack of any consequences for any of these people. I mean, look what Obama got away with. Obama and Hillary, the lying to a FISA court, the Steele dossier, all of it. I mean, all of this needs to be set right. So I kind of like the idea that the way it sort of seems to be unfolding with all those interviews Trump was giving during the transition. Like, they say, well, you think the J6 committee should, I think they should be, but, that's not my department. I'm over here fixing the border. I'm over here, trying to get the price of eggs down. Get the Panama Canal back. Blah, blah, blah. I'm doing that stuff. I've assigned people over here, nominated people over. They're going to handle that stuff. That's not on my desk. That's their stuff. They're independent. Remember? They look at the facts and they make their decisions and do what they need to do. Meanwhile, let's get the price of gas down and let's get the price of eggs down. I think it's a very, very, very smart move to go. And frankly, when it comes to having to answer to the legacy media, boy, I hope that new lady who's in charge of the White House communications office, the new press office, can't remember her name at the moment. I hope she just, let's put a whole bunch of different people up here in these front seats, and you legacy media, why should we give you? You don't command any audience. Who are you talking about? It was interesting while that was going on. I picked up my phone while the actual inauguration was going on. I picked up my phone. And I was like swiping through, looking at all of the different view totals. Trump's X account, there were almost 18 million people watching it live on his account. On the X account of it, 20 million people. I mean, you have like a quarter of the electorate watching it on X or Trump's X. And,
Right.
and then I swiped over to, again, it's the social media accounts. It's not the broadcast networks. But, I mean, really? You think there were like 15 million people watching the inauguration on CNN or MSNBC? MSNBC cut away from his comments and started doing, analysis, during his comments. So you don't need a rationale if you're the White House press secretary to say, no, I'm sorry, Jake Tapper. No, I'm sorry, Jim Acosta. No, I'm sorry, Rachel Maddow. You guys you're going to sit in the back row. Don't even try to ask a question. If we want you to ask a question, we'll let you know, but don't hold your breath. Anyway, so let me see here. Steve Bannon, what's your question?
Yes, exactly.
They have figured out that they need to get control of the narrative. They have it, but there's one thing about going through and having the narrative during a campaign, because you got to seize the narrative, like, with the McDonald's job and the garbage truck and all of that. And they're kind of like one-hit wonders. And, you get your traction out of them and you're on to the next one. It's like advertising. Yeah. But now when you get into policy and long-term going over it, setting the tone, controlling the flow of that narrative, that's extremely important. And the legacy media is going to do their legacy media thing, but they should absolutely not have anything like the access they used to have, if at all.
Yeah.
If at all.
Right.
So
right.
ABC has had to fork over $15 million for defaming Trump, George Stephanopoulos. CBS is currently being sued for $10 billion for interfering with the campaign, with the election, because of that, what's her face? Harris I even forgot her name already. Good. Harris, the way they edited up the Harris interview. Who was it that just paid a huge amount of money to settle to get out of something else? NBC?
CNN, the American soldier who basically went into Afghanistan, helped get people out. $5 million.
Jake Tapper and CNN.
Yes.
These people command no respect. I mean, that's 1, 2, 3 strikes. You've been sued 3 times and you've given up the ghost 3 times. You not only, you never really have had much credibility in the last 10 years or so, but right now it's proven in court. I mean, you've surrendered, you've gone into settlement agreements, you've done this, you've done that. So you don't, the White House dictates who gets into the White House press room, period. And they don't have to give explanations why or whatever. But if they want to give explanations, well, there's some really good reasons to give explanations. The narrative going forward right now, absolutely. The game has switched. Now you're in control. You must maintain control. Big difference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the revolution that's been going on with Musk having purchased Twitter, now X, that, of course, we've discussed this many times, that is revolutionary. It is a platform for the truth to emerge. You're talking about all the deceptive editing, all the lawsuits against these various establishment media companies. They haven't learned anything. Shortly before we came on here onto the show, I was seeing reports that someone out there basically has deceptively edited Elon Musk's appearance. He put his hand on his heart and then waved at the people that, his audience, basically, as a gesture of love. And he finished his comments and was getting ready to walk away from the microphone. Well, that's now been edited to look deceptively edited to look like he's doing, either a Roman salute or some are saying a Nazi salute. And now that is going out. And CNN played that. They played that. So this kind of stuff is going out on the airwaves. They have learned nothing. And so they need to be taught a lesson, because we cannot be allowing committed propagandists, committed liars to just spew their filth basically across America's airwaves. Trump has to stop that.
Yeah. And if there's somebody in there who's going to do it, I think it's him and his team. They understood the importance of grabbing that narrative and caught the Democrats completely flat-footed, the whole Harris campaign. First of all, you don't want her sitting in front of a camera for more than 6 seconds. But even if they were to put her there and she was to say something good, they were too late to the game. what was it, 1 billion views. I know a view is a view is a view is a million. What does it mean? And all you watch it for 5 seconds or it runs across. I get all that, but the number is still 1 billion. 1 billion views is what that discussion between Trump and Elon was. 1 billion with a B views. That's still the largest number. And then he goes on Joe Rogan, and it was like 75 million. They were way too late to the game. And I think they were because they were hanging on to their whole legacy media thing and the whole bit. Meanwhile, the legacy media in part's throwing them overboard. Jeff Bezos, hey, my Washington Post, we're not going to endorse anybody this time. New York, LA Times, no, we're not going to endorse anybody. They're like, what? Screaming, that momentum, more than anything. I'm biased because I'm a media guy and I've been media my entire adult life, professional life. But you cannot lose the media thing. At this point, this is like busting off the beachhead and racing to Berlin, getting off those Normandy shores and racing full steam to Berlin. The race, as a matter of fact, off the little point, and then we're getting a little bit of a wrap up here, so I'll let you, I know there's a couple points you want to make, but the speed at which the Allied breakout happened off of Normandy was so fast and so decisive on the race to Paris, to get to Paris and liberate Paris in August of 1944, that they the land, the road in between the beaches and the Allied supply line, American supply line, and Paris, that stretch of road, what had been captured so fast that they left behind these pockets of German, Wehrmacht units all over the place. And they weren't strong enough to attack and sort of repel the Allied invasion, but they were around enough to, cause a bunch of headaches and, snipers sitting up shooting, drivers on trucks and things like that. And that stretch of road became known as, among the GIs, as engine country. Because the move was so fast to get to Paris and recapture Paris. That mentality is exactly what the Trump team needs now. You thought we were moving fast before with garbage trucks and going to Madison Square Garden and working at McDonald's and all that. Baby, that was nothing. You have really got to step on the gas now. They need to be obliterated. Get them on the run. Keep them on the run and drive them into the ground. That's the only approach that will happen here. These people cannot be allowed a moment of freedom or a moment of fresh air to breathe.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right, final point. I know our time is getting short here. I'd like to just touch on the international reaction. Now, of course, all the leftist governments around the world are crying out against what's happened here in the U.S., Trump returning to power. But it's been very gratifying. I've gone online over the past 24 hours plus just to specifically take the temperature of what this means for beleaguered conservatives, beleaguered patriots across the West. And I've specifically looked, kind of concentrated on Canada and the United Kingdom and Australia. And it's been extremely gratifying to see the reaction of folks there. Of course, they're happy that Trump has returned to power. But what is I don't know, even more encouraging than that, our victory here in the United States, this massive change of course that we're undertaking under Trump, this is giving them new hope. Because as bad as things have been here over the past 4 years, many of them have been under Biden-like leftist governments for far longer than that. In Canada, it's been 9 years. The British political establishment has been woke for most of this century, frankly, and as a result, their societies are dying. They are literally dying, and so our victory has injected them with new hope and has encouraged them to band together to accomplish what, in their own respective countries, what we have accomplished here. It's been extremely encouraging to see that, and I hope we continue to light the way, as a beacon of freedom throughout the world.
Yeah. So, Lady Liberty holding up her lamp,
yep.
To light the path,
exactly.
light the path to freedom. That's it. And speaking of liberty and freedom, you better use it right.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And then. we are a Catholic organization, so I think we'd be remiss if we did not address this. Yesterday, Pope Francis came out and he basically warned that Trump's plan to deport, millions of criminal elements from this country here illegally, that would be, quote, a calamity. And so I want to get your thoughts on that. I was absolutely disgusted by it. Because to me, that is just the height of hypocrisy. He issued this statement nestled safely behind the Vatican walls. Remind me how many North African migrants the Vatican is currently housing. I just found that absolutely despicable. So I'd like you to speak to that. And I just want to make another point there. To me, this represents such a lost opportunity. There is very evident a massive spiritual hunger here in the United States and across the world, basically across the West. And if rather than distorting Catholic teaching on this issue, if Pope Francis were to reinforce it and to use it to evangelize unchurched conservatives, of which there are millions across the West, think of the impact that could have on souls. But instead, he continues to parrot dusty, tired 1970s social activism talking points, leftist talking points. And I just find that to be a massive failure of leadership, as the spiritual head.
In a sense, Stephen, I mean, the whole, what are we seeing? I'm getting the a couple minutes to wrap up thing also, but
okay.
Sure. What are we seeing when you look at sort of church and state on sort of parallel tracks? Okay, the state/culture thing kind of got across, well, I won't say across the finish line, but onto the beaches before the church did this time. But, all of this comes from the same, sort of the same cesspool of, social justice and this and that and everything. I mean, some things in there, sure, okay, they're all right. They're well-intended, is, unbridled wealth, is there nothing to be said about that? Of course, all these sorts of things have some legitimacy to them, but not to the extreme they've been carried in the culture by the woke left, the communists, Marxist Democrats and stuff, and those same types of thoughts in the church also. So, yeah, I mean, there's a great meme out that says, it's got Trump laughing or saying something like, my responsibility isn't to clean up the mess that Biden produced. My responsibility is to clean up the mess that produced Biden. And that's a very legitimate point. He's going to go and someone else will come onto the stage. I mean, well, that same thing kind of exists in the church as well right now. Not the church, the indefectible bride of Christ, but in the members of the hierarchy and all that kind of stuff who are just, sold on this whole social justice crap. That needs to be addressed as well. And, Francis fell again over the weekend. Now, he's not laid up and incapacitated, but, he's no spring chicken. What is he, 85? He's a step ahead, barely. He doesn't even walk anymore. He's in a wheelchair. So the same types of changes that I think you've seen on the political front, and I know he named like 98% of all the cardinals and all that stuff and everything else, but everybody, even leaders, are somewhat captive to the circumstances in which they assume power. And I don't think there's an awful lot of appetite among Catholics who care to keep getting yelled and screamed at that you're not Christian because you want to protect your own borders. And, abortion's a bad thing, but we're going to, kind of wink and nod at gay marriage or whatever, whatever you want to call it and stuff, or saying something very confusing and then leaving some lackey in the Vatican press office to write a statement that gets released at 2 a.m. on Saturday. Says, oh no, we cleared that up. So, we don't have any voting power, obviously. I mean, every analogy falls apart, but in the end, that's why it's an analogy and not it's like something. It isn't something. That said, the vibe shift in the church is very much in line with the vibe shift of the culture. Think about the trade that just happened. Kamala Harris, not Catholic, but Joe Biden-Harris administration, Pelosi, all of that stuff. Those guys are all in their 80s. And who's standing over there? A dude who's not 40, who's a Catholic convert, whose wife, is Catholic, with 5 good Catholics on the Supreme Court. Catholics, people converting to Catholicism kind of across the board here. There is a vibe shift, work of the Holy Spirit, inside the Catholic Church, as there has been many, many times in the history, 2,000 years, and they're not going to have 2,000 perfect years and then just one bad papacy. But I think it's a parallel worth watching. Souls and liberty.
Liberty. Very good. All right, Mr. Boris, we will leave it there. We're out of time here. Thank you, sir, very much for joining us today and for leading our particular charge to bring Trump to victory. Your leadership is very much appreciated. And to our viewers, thank you as always for joining us.
We should finish up, actually, Stephen, with a prayer of gratitude. We always just so the audience knows, before we come to air, we always offer a Hail Mary, but I think it's nice here because now it's done. There he is. He took the oath. Everybody's praying, blah, 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 and all that and everything. So I think we can offer a Hail Mary here now at the end of the show.
Yeah, please do. Lead us. Yeah.
In gratitude. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. And for you-know-who tonight, Our Lady of Victory, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thanks, Stephen.
All right. Very good. Thank you, sir. And thank you to our viewers. We will see you next time. I'm Stephen Wynn, joining you from Kansas City. God bless.
Go Irish!